this meeting is on
Zoom.
his or her own. So just make sure you know how to leave wherever you are in case of an emergency. And now we go to the board consent agenda, where I need a motion to approve items C1 through C3. Is there a motion?
So
Ms.
moved.
Made the motion, Mr. Parker seconded it. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving C1 through C3?
Aye.
I think it's unanimous if Mr. Pacini is voting.
Zen.
Yes, okay, thank you. And next we have Dr. Gianni's report.
Yes, I just have a couple of reports for the board this evening. First, I'm happy to report that the Kramer Street Security Vestibule has been installed as planned. Today, the contractors were completing some finishing touches, actually putting in the flooring, and it should be fully functional and operational by tomorrow. So it came out pretty nice. It's an attractive little structure outside the building. If you get the opportunity, take a drive by and see how it came out. I think it did come out very nice. And the second item, earlier this week, one of our high school teachers, Mr. Andrew Budrus, appeared in the Sunday Newsday for being selected the Long Island Council for Social Studies High School Teacher of the Year. You may recall we announced this at a previous board meeting with plans to celebrate Mr. Budrus after he was honored by the council. However, COVID-19 has not been too cooperative, so we have not been able to do that. But in any event, I would like to again congratulate Mr. Budrus. He is truly one of South Country's shining stars, so congratulations. And that's the only two announcements that I have, Ms. Hayes. I'll turn it over back to you.
Add on to the announcement about Mr. Budrus, he did get some community attention because he was featured on Bellport.com with an article and a nice photo. So we haven't been able to do the usual kind of recognition, but there is being recognition given to him. So that's good. Okay, next. Any trustee or advisory committee reports, and I'll start with Mr. Trent.
No, I don't have anything at this time.
Okay, Mr. Pacini.
Nothing for me.
Mr. Parker.
No.
Ms. Felice. You're muted, Ms. Felice. There we go.
Okay. I just had to step away for a moment. Can you repeat the question?
Oh, this is for, do you have anything to report, our advisory committee report to make?
Oh, okay, so it seems like nobody made reports. I'll save it till the end. I just have a few updates. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Aruda.
I'll just say quickly, we had our first teaching and learning advisory committee led by Ms. Doyle. It was very nice to have the committee back, and I want to thank all of the teachers and the administrators, staff, and community that came out, and looking forward to hitting the ground running. And we have our next meeting next week.
Okay. Ms. Ancona.
Nope, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, then there's me. And I wanted to tell you that I went to a webinar midday today that was by the New York State Sports Association on racism and implicit bias and disparity issues within the public schools. And the speakers were outstanding. And there was one school district from Nyack that undertook some years ago a complete revamping of their structural system in terms of how to approach the systemic problems that they had. They even went so far as to get a consultant to come in and work with them on the bias and systemic problems, and found that it was going so well, they made it a permanent position. So I think that there was an awful lot in this meeting that I wanted to think further about, because one of the suggestions is that we need to take a good look at our policies and maybe make a new policy specifically with regard to equity in education, so that that policy survives any of us on the board. You know, it's one thing for us to put things in motion and to follow up on it at our monthly meetings, but if we want to make a lasting presence, we need to do it by policy. So I'm hoping that we can get this assignment, I think, to strategic planning.
Well, actually, Anne, what I would suggest, because the Equity and Education Committee's meeting, and I think they're meeting Thursday.
Okay.
Perhaps, and I believe Mr. Trent is a member on that committee. Perhaps that can start with discussion there, what even if it's an outline, and then maybe we can look to Erie BOCES for any sample policies, or if you even know that district, we could reach out to them for a sample policy.
Okay.
And bring it back.
All right. So I'll let you know who to contact at that district. And it also, and I think going through the Equity and Education Committee that's great. So thank you for bringing that up. And maybe they can take a look too at our strategic plan and see if there's anything in there that needs to be adjusted, you know, because the strategic plan goes toward pretty much student performance. But if we can get into the strategic plan, looking for improved environment for the students and the teachers, that would be great too. So thanks for doing that.
Sure. And I know Mr. Frankie is running a little late, so he's not in the waiting room yet. But I'll bring him in as the meeting is progressing. Okay.
And we'll just keep an eye out for him.
Yeah, I will.
He comes in. I think the next is public commentary. And this is where, because we're under virtual meeting restrictions, we're having letters submitted to our clerk that can be read at this session. And I believe that, Ann, you said there's one letter that was intended to be read?
Yes, there's one letter.
Okay.
It is from Heather Highland. Good evening, all. This letter is for the Board of Education to review on December 2nd as a voice for my child and I, as well as other parents who may have similar views. I am writing this as an undecided parent as to whether or not I want to send my child into school. There are so many questions I have. With that said, these surveys that are going out are very vague, and if there was more forthcoming information prior to these surveys, it could sway our answer in either direction. As for the COVID numbers going up and the letter sent out about the likelihood of testing student staff, more questions arise. Who will be administering them? Can a parent be present? What happens if the parent declines? If our child is chosen to be tested, can we take them to their pediatrician for testing and have the results sent directly to the school? The COVID numbers are going up, and with the holiday season in full swing, the numbers are predicted to go up more. So why not err on the side of caution and continue with the hybrid plan that was clearly working? At this moment, I don't think putting both cohorts in the schools at the same time is the safest way to go. The Board of Education meetings are via Zoom, as well as the upcoming parent-teacher conferences, yet we're pushing to get the students in now. I would like my child in school 4 days a week, but not when I feel it's too risky. Perhaps after the holidays would be a safer, better time to start this process. In regards to the full remote students in grades K through 5, there are 2 options. Option A, keep their roster teachers and meet for the AM, PM Google Meet, then report to their 2 new teachers for live instruction, 1 teacher for reading and writing, the other teacher for math, science, and social studies. Or option B, still keep their roster teacher, but only sign in for the AM, PM Google Meets and the student works independently. I don't see how a first or second grader can work independently. I've been told these teachers are getting pulled from the AIS program, which means extra help in reading and math will no longer be available. I believe this program was offered in the hybrid plan. This is very interesting as the report cards have recently gone out. How are the children that need this help going to get what they may need? I feel like this is once again failing the children. When one problem is fixed, others are created. I know not all problems can be solved, but is this really the best option we can come up with for these kids? Sure, let's get them in 4 days a week, but now they're not offered the AIS program. Any reason this district can't offer both? I don't see how cutting this out is beneficial on any level. I once again find myself asking why, after 3 months of the teachers and students getting to know each other, why will they have yet again another teacher, in some cases more than one, pulled away from them? They will only see their roster teacher for AM, PM Google Meets. Not to mention, how is this going to affect how the teachers grade their students? This year has been very difficult for all of us, especially our little ones, and I don't feel these options have the best interest for our children in mind. If someone could please respond to me, letting me know you have received this, I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to read my letter and have a great day. Heather Highland. And that's the only letter I had.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, next is, I think, items for discussion.
Yes, and the first one is the reopening plan. I have a couple of items that I would like to report to the board this evening. First, as the board knows, this week, all students who attend our schools shifted to all remote learning. This shift, as you know, was precautionary measure to avoid a possible uptick in infection rates following Thanksgiving holiday. Our principals report that remote teaching and learning has been going well this week and with a rather seamless transition. So that's good news. All staff has reported to their schools for work, with the exception of about 22 or so staff members who are working from home. And that's either due to childcare issues or they are being quarantined. To date, we have had 5 staff members and 19 students reports of positive cases, 3 of which were reported this week. Our phase-in plan continues next week with phase 4. Students returning for in-person instruction for the 2nd week. Phase 5 students are scheduled to return December 14th, bringing back grades 2, 3, 5, 6, and 12 at 4 days per week. We would also like to include grades 7 through 12 504 students in phase 5. We reviewed this and feel that we can do that as we are beginning to bring students back into those buildings as well. We have made calls to these families with those with an interest of coming back sooner and giving them the option. And some of them are saying, no, I'd rather just wait for the regular phase-in to occur, which is fine. But these, I know, were a group of students that the board did inquire about. We also had inquiries from parents. You know, we looked at special education first, and now that we have the phase-in plan in place, we thought we would look at 504 in grades 7 through 11 because 6 and 12 are already there. So this would require board action because it's a slight change of including additional students to the plan. And I would like to recommend to the board that we do include that so we could move forward with that plan.
Well, let me get a motion on the table. And
So
then-
let me give you something to motion.
Sure.
Administration recommends giving families of 504 students in grades 7 through 11 the option of returning to in-person instruction during phase 5.
Okay. Is there a motion? Mr. Puccini and second by Mr. Trent. Any questions or discussion? Ms. Ancona?
I just want to know, do you know how many students that's adding to the buildings?
Yeah,
Secondary?
it's really not that many. I think it's a little over 30 at the high school. I'm not sure about the middle school. It's probably about the same. Because remember, one grade level is already in. So it's not a significant impact at all.
And we still don't have the distance in the classrooms, right?
Well, that's when we would begin going inside the 6 feet.
But you don't know what the footage is still.
No, I can tell you that it's going to be in the same range as the elementary schools. It'll be 3 to 6 feet.
3 to 6. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Aruda?
Were we able to contact all the parents? I know that phone calls did go out randomly this week. Were there a great deal of parents that we could not contact and get information on?
I don't know the specific results of contact, but if we have not, we will continue to contact. We still have another week or so to reach out to folks. I do know they have been making the calls and have been making contacts, though. I don't know the exact results, though, but we can certainly, we will definitely continue to reach out and make contact.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, so all in favor of approving this, raise your hand. Let's see, Ms. Ancona, Ms. Aruda, I can't see yours. No, okay.
I'm
So,
abstaining. Abstention.
Um,
Abstention.
oh, all right, so six yes and 1 abstention. All right.
Okay, the next item I'd like to talk about, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Trent.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions about the reopening. I got a couple of text messages about the barriers and the difficulty that students could have seeing the board over the barriers. Have those concerns been brought to your attention?
Yes, I have heard that, but unfortunately, those are concerns. I mean, we do have we do need to place the barriers in place. I'm not convinced that adjustments can't be made within the classroom so the students can see the board, but it has been brought to our attention.
Now, the board my second question is from the board update on November 5th. There were a couple days of attendance data that was in the report, and the percentages of the students who are absent is kind of high. Is there anything that we're doing specifically, building by building or district overall, to address the students who are absent?
Sure, those are just similar to what has been done in the past. So the teachers reach out. It gets to a point where that gets passed off for resource folks in the building, whether it's social workers or even our parent liaisons, and connections are made. We are experiencing difficulty with remote learners connecting. There's no doubt that is an issue, and it's not an issue that's a result of not having the ability to connect, but simply not connecting, which is another reason why we are moving to get our kids back to school when they are able to come in.
So in the meantime, while they are remote, and they have been remote for the last quarter, I can only imagine that this has a negative impact on their performance.
Well, sure. If you're not attending school, it would have a negative impact on your performance. But we are moving down all avenues to ensure people are connecting. I can guarantee you that we are not sitting back and not addressing kids that are not either coming to school or connecting remotely.
All right. I guess my last question is regarding PPE. Are we using more PPE than we expected to? Like, are we running through masks more than we budgeted for or expected to, or is it kind of under what we were expecting to?
I would have to look at that, Mr. Trent. I haven't had any reports that we were running out or that it was an issue. So I'm assuming that we're not having an issue with it, but honestly, I would have to check to see.
And another question about moving forward. Are we talking about creating a plan, or is there already a plan in place to test students and faculty?
So that's later in my report. I still have a couple of items that I wanted to speak with the board about.
My apologies, Joe.
That's all right. Is that all you have so far? Okay. So the next piece I wanted to talk to the board about is the remote teachers. As the board knows, we paused the rollout of remote teachers to address questions submitted by the teachers regarding implementation and to address some concerns expressed by parents. The Remote Teaching and Learning Committee was reconvened and developed two options, actually a couple of options that were mentioned in the public commentary letter that we will be implementing. Option one, remote learners will stay with their currently assigned classroom teacher, where they will join the AM and PM SEL Google Meets with the entire class and then do independent work and assignments in Google Classroom. Remote learners will be able to get support from their teacher on remote Wednesdays or individually as scheduled with the teacher on their own. Live streaming will occur for students who are out long-term as a result of COVID-19. And live streaming will not occur for students who are out short-term, either due to illness or family choice. These students would be able to join the AM and PM Google Meet, but will need to get the work assignments posted in Google Classroom. And in option two, remote learners will be assigned a remote teacher for their direct instruction, but will continue to join the regular classroom AM, PM, SEL, Google Meets. The remote teacher assignments will begin for grades K1 and 4 on Monday. That's phase 4. And our plan is to implement on December 14th for grades 2, 3, and 5, which is phase 5, bringing this rollout in line with the other phases of our rollout plan. And if you have any questions about remote teachers, I'll be happy to address them now. Okay, thank you. The next item is the item that's ever present in the news today, is reports of the New York microcluster strategy to limit the spread of COVID-19. The state strategy contains processes to identify geographic boundaries into what's called microcluster zones, where COVID-19 spread has reached levels that require some action. There are 3 potential microcluster zone designation. It is the red zone, the orange zone, or the yellow zone. Not too long ago, I notified our community that it appears we are trending toward being designated as a yellow zone. Very briefly, if we were designated as a yellow zone, we would need to conduct mandatory testing of 20% of students and staff for our schools to remain open for in-person learning. This testing requirement will be for in-person students and staff biweekly until such time we can demonstrate that the school infection rate is below the yellow zone 7-day rolling average. Once this is accomplished, no further testing would be required unless the zone designation becomes more restrictive. So what's the process for that? There are many factors that are considered when the state makes zone designation. In fact, they're actually changing, they're fluid, just like the situation, right? So just earlier this week, the governor announced that these zone designations will include community infection rate, explainable and/or controllable factors contributing to high positive rates, and hospital capacity. Because of these many contributing factors, there's simply no way to determine if and when any of our schools may enter one of these zones. And then to complicate matters even further, designations are being made by zip code, meaning it is possible for some of our district schools could receive a designation while others do not. For example, we have 3 zip codes in the district: 11719, which is Belport High School, Brookhaven, and South Haven; 11713, which is the middle school, Frank P. Long and Kramer; and 11772, which is Kritz. So it's a possibility that either all of them or one group of them could be designated. There's simply uncertainty in the numbers. They are on the rise. We are taking the necessary steps in preparation of such designation. This began with a visit to a school district currently doing the testing to see the operation firsthand. Our nurses and responders with medical credentials were trained on test administration Monday. And on Tuesday, we arranged for our nurses to visit a testing site in another district to get some firsthand knowledge of what that looks like. Last week, I know the board's aware, we sent out a willingness to test survey. That survey was, very simply to give us an idea of our ability to make that 20% mark the state requires. For the board's information, we had 1,223 respondents as of this afternoon. That survey has closed. 56% of our parents indicated they would not permit their child to test, while 44% of the parents indicated they would permit their child to test. I do understand there are several questions out there regarding the testing. The survey was, very simply a thought to give us an idea of what that testing looks like, not to provide additional information to the parents. We intend to provide that information. I met with PTA Council on Monday and did get a list of questions from them as a result of that meeting. My plan is to do a Facebook Live sometime at the end of this week to address this topic specifically, to try to answer those questions. Right now, I do believe we are in a good place in the event of any of our schools receive a zone designation. The state gives you 3 instructional days to set up our testing. If the need arises, I believe we're in a good place and probably can do that in a day. We have a team in place. The team's been trained. We visited sites. We have prepared the materials that need to go to the site to conduct the testing. The only thing we would need, obviously, are the actual tests and the support from the DOH, which we would get both of them from the DOH. And at this point, that's about all I have to report, and be happy to answer any questions that I can and that the board might have. And I'm going to start at the top of my page with Ms. Ancona.
Thank you. So when you said you had 1,223 responses, was that family or individuals?
That's family.
Okay, and are they broken up by those zip codes to make sure that we have the 20%? So you don't know that?
No, they are not. They are not.
Oh, they're not.
They are not.
So we don't know if we have the 20% for each school that we would need.
No. And again, the survey was just to get a gauge. It wasn't to get actual numbers. If and when we are designated, we would need to send out actual permission forms for it. And at that time, we would get an actual idea of who would test.
Okay, and how does it, I don't know if you know this or if we could find out, but when it goes to the 3 zone colors and the zip codes, we also have other zip codes that aren't a part of where the actual school is. So how will that factor in?
So the purpose of the testing within schools is to demonstrate that schools are not the problem, right? So testing stops as soon as you are showing you are below the 7-day percent average. So it doesn't, like I said, the point is to show that the school is a safe place. So if you're below the average, testing stops. You don't have to test again unless there is a new zone designation. So outside zips have no matter to our schools or the school district.
So it's where the actual school is located then.
Exactly. It's where the school is located. That's why, like I said, listen, a couple of weeks ago, it appeared that the Patchogue area was trending yellow. That was information I got directly from the DOH. And you know that your Patchogue number is crits. So there is a possibility, I could tell you that, we could be designated yellow at crits only. And then we would
Right.
only be testing at crits and all other schools would have no designation.
Okay, and is the DOH providing the test for no cost, or is it going to be cost us?
So the state provides the tests to the DOH and the DOH, the local DOH distributes them.
And one more question, sorry. Do we know how long it's going to be are these kids going to have to come to school early to get the testing? Are they going to be tested at the school, or like, I'm just thinking of arrival time. How's that going to impact?
Yeah, so the way I see it is, one of the questions were, can a parent accompany a kid during the test? So our plan would be to distribute the parent consent forms. The parents that give the consent without being there, those students would be tested sometime during the school day. And those that want to be tested with a parent would be on the school day. So I see our testing time frame as 9 to 5. So it would go beyond the school day to permit that parents to come in. And we would probably say 1 parent per child, and we'd have to, follow our protocols with regard to social distancing and provide waiting areas that can accommodate the parents as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I think Ms. Aruda was down my list next.
Ms. Ancona asked some of my questions. Thank you. How would we, and I know that I did ask you if we could survey the staff to see if we would have a 20% within the staff. I do know that legally everyone does have to take it, but if we can make it where it's a little bit more comfortable for staff members that are comfortable taking the test, I would look into that. And my question is, how are we going to randomize who we are choosing, specifically when we're talking about the staff, to take this test?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, Ms. Aruda. I'm sure we can get some random list that comes out of our database, and possibly we would determine that we're going to look at every 3rd person, right? And we don't know who those are, but that would be random, or kind of random, wouldn't it? Or perhaps we can have a program that would just randomize it. Haven't thought that far along, particularly since staff are required to test. I don't anticipate an issue with staff. One question that hasn't been asked, but I'd like to just mention, it's not an invasive test. Some of us might have gotten that PCR test where the Q-tip is kind of way up in the nostril and rolled around for 5 seconds, rather uncomfortable. That is not this test. This test is right inside the nostril. There's no discomfort at all.
Yeah.
And I think once I do get that information out to parents and staff, I think we'll have more people that are interested in taking the test, just for the knowledge of knowing.
I've had the test done before. I'm aware of the test. I do think it's within the environment in which you're giving the test and the individuals that are giving the test.
Mhm.
Many people choose to go to a medical professional for health related issues, or, obviously, for some is you don't want to take a test if you're not symptomatic or you don't, so I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. So that's why I ask about the staff for those that feel comfortable or not comfortable. Obviously, we gave that courtesy to the parents as well because they are minors. But if it's something that we could look into, I think that we should.
Okay. And again, I think the big part of this testing process is really educating everyone that it's really not a test to find, but to show that the school is safe, right? And I think so far, our numbers are low, and I'm pretty confident at this point that we would be able to show that. And I think it's going to be a matter of just sharing that information with both faculty and parents, and try to alleviate some of the concerns that may come along with testing. The other nice thing about the test, I know you said you had it, you get the results in 15 minutes. It's not like, some of the tests that you wait 2 and 3 days for. So, Mr. Piccini, I think you had your hand up.
I did, thank you. And a few of my questions were answered also. This might sound like a dumb question, but it's been asked to me a few different times. If we have to test every 2 weeks, those that are tested, are they taking out of the random pool, or could potentially kids and staff members, they're out?
Yeah.
So if this goes on an extended amount of time, we need a higher percentage than 20 to continue.
Yes. So that's yes, but so we all understand where that number comes from. You all know we make reports to the state every single day with regard to students at school and students tested positive. The state is using that dashboard to determine what our percentage is, right? Because, and I mentioned this earlier, we're only testing kids in school. We're not testing the kids that are remote all the time. Because again, remember, the purpose of the test is to show the school is safe. There's no need to test the kids at home. So that percent, I can take our enrollment and figure a percent, and that would simply be a guideline for me to know, but won't be the actual number that I will need to test.
Yeah, well, I'm not really getting you. I understand. I think I understand what you're saying, but it's still depending. I guess the question really is how many weeks we're going to have to test, right? Because you just said it's every 2 weeks until you're out of the yellow zone, right?
Yes.
So if we have, I think the number is roughly 75, 80% of our students are enrolled. I don't know what it's going to be when we go back to full time, but I'm assuming it's going to be somewhere, even if it's 70%. That 70% number, it's 20% of that. But once you take those 20% that are tested out, that next 20%, it becomes a higher number. You end up, if you go, 6, 8 weeks of testing, you're going to get through half the student population, no?
Yeah, I guess that if you can't come below the 7-day average, yeah, I guess you can run into a little bit of a problem.
Well, all right. So let me ask you this. I don't mean to cut you off, but you're saying that if the districts, the first 20% are tested, and let's say it's 2% or 1%.
We're done.
We're done, and we don't have to test again in 2 weeks. We only have to test again in 2 weeks if you're over 5%.
We only would have to test if we were designated again.
Okay, so
There's
even
a
if
new designation,
zone, as long as we get that testing, then it doesn't matter. We don't have to test again.
we're done.
But what are the impacts? So if we're in a yellow and we test and we stay open, and then we go to the next one, I think is orange.
Yeah,
So
so
we have to then test again. And
well, sure, that'll be a new designation. And that's something that the governor just changed, right? So previously orange and red, you were closed, right?
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't open. But just this week, the governor changed that. So orange, you have to do 20% over a month's time. And red, you have to do 30% over a month's time. So you can see the governor is trying to keep schools open, right? And he's giving the opportunity to.
But what I'm getting at is that if we're yellow and we test 20%, and then in a few weeks later, we're in orange, are the 20% that were tested when we were yellow, are they excluded from being tested again? Are they back in the pool?
I would say, I think they are back in the pool because it is a new designation. but
That-
I
and that-
honestly, I don't, I'm
I-
not.
And I didn't, honestly, I didn't think you had the answer to that. I think these are some of the details that we need to get from DOH. If it comes out. I have a few others. I don't, somebody else mentioned, I think it was Melissa, about space and where we're gonna do the testing and things like that. So, do we envision this being like, and I know you said it'll go beyond the day, but like maybe using a cafeteria or gymnasium so we have the space?
It'll either be in the gym or the cafeteria, depending upon the school.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
we'll need a
then-
large, we need a large area because we need to be able to social distance. There's some 7, 8 stations that we need to accommodate. And
Mhm.
we also have to be a nearby isolation room or create an isolation room.
Okay, and I know you mentioned that one of the questions from PTA was, can parents accompany their children during the test? Did we say that yes, we can, or we're gonna work that in
Yeah, so the plan is to permit that after the school day, not during the school day.
after the school day? Okay, and then, and I want to make sure it was clear too, our intention is to have our nurses, and you said responders that are also EMTs, and possibly, did you say the South Country Ambulance Company would lend a
Yeah,
hand?
so we had all of our nurses and responders with the MT credentials do the training. We also reached out to South Country Ambulance to get support from them. They did indicate they would provide support, any support needed. And, all of this really depends upon the designation, right? So if CRITS is designated, we have a smaller group that we have to worry about. If the district's designated, we're going to probably need more people. On top of that, if our designation spills into other districts, they will also be taking resources from the DOH, so we'll need to rely on ourselves more. So right now, Riverhead's doing testing, as I think everyone knows. They're almost totally supported by DOH. That's not going to continue when other districts fall into this zone, one of the
I
zones.
guess the question really comes down to, if we get to that position where there's multiple districts and we're doing it on our own, do we envision somebody that's not a medical personnel administering a test? Is that a possibility?
It is certainly possible because the test is only required to be read by an RN.
Okay.
All of our nurses are RNs.
And I think one of the things that would probably go a long way, because as you read comments on social media and I talk to different parents, there is a lot of confusion about the test itself. And I think everybody needs to understand that it's early. And again, your survey was preliminary and there'd be more information coming. But I think that the more information we can get from DOH or any other source about the test and about the process that we can post on our website, I think would put some people at ease. I know a parent, and I didn't get a chance to read through it, did post some sort of an article on one of the mom's pages in the last couple of days that did have information about this test, because you're right, a lot of people think they're going to stick that 15-inch, Q-tip and tickle the base of a kid's brain. And, I've had the rapid test 2 or 3 times, and it is very simple. It's just a Q-tip at the base of the nostril, and it's not a big deal. But if you've never done it, you don't know that. So I think the best we can do to educate our families on that, through resources through DOH could go a long way.
And I'll add to that simply by if any trustees are getting these questions from, residents, send them to me and I'll incorporate those in that Facebook Live so I can just answer them, and then we'll have that resource posted on the web.
Yeah, I think there's some general concerns about, the invasiveness of the test. And, I saw some concerns, which I don't know, I put too much stock in, is where does the data go? Where does that information go? Is it secure, et cetera? Things
Yeah,
like
so
that.
I'll tell you, I'll answer that. We will have somebody on site entering the data right into the DOH website.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, that's all I have on this item, unless the board has any other questions regarding this or anything with regard to reopening. Okay, then I'm going to move on to our next item for discussion, which is the comprehensive education plan for Vern W. Kritz Elementary School. While Vern Kritz is a school in good standing, they are designated a target support and improvement school as a result of one of our subgroups by designation by the State Education Department. for last school year. Okay, I think I might have shared this with the board at the beginning of this school year when we talked about Brookhaven and Bellport. These designations rolled over as a result of COVID. So we did have to develop a SCEP, which is included for the board's review and approval on the board decks this evening. The plan has been developed by the building teams in accordance with state education requirements and the tenets of effective school systems that we will be measured on. The plan requires board approval prior to being sent to the state. However, just as the previous SCEPs, the state will review the plan, offer suggestions for change, and then we will need to make those changes and resubmit to the state. So I offer this item for the board's discussion and action.
I had a question.
Okay.
On one of the early pages in the report, it talks about chronic absenteeism, and it breaks down categories of our students and gives a number 1 through 4. Is 1 the worst and 4 is the best in terms of attendance?
Yeah, Ms. Doyle, is that accurate? 1 is the low part of the rubric and 4 is the high?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, that is correct, Ms. Hayes.
Okay, so we're showing then that our students who are considered white, Hispanic, or English language learners all come in at 4, and our Black students and our ED students come in at 1. What steps are being taken to resolve this? I don't see anything in the plan that talks about absenteeism.
Really? I'm gonna
Well,
bring,
point me, it's a relatively lengthy document, and
yeah.
I don't see
Yeah,
anything.
so the tenants are what we're measured by, and I believe I'm going to bring Ms. Doyle in to the meeting, who worked with the committee on the development. She'd be better to speak to some of the questions the board may have, and we could just wait for her to connect.
Section that talked about, getting the community involved, and I don't know if maybe that's what you're thinking of.
I don't know why we're having some feedback there. Hold on. Okay. So Ms. Doyle has joined us. Ms. Doyle, I don't know if you heard the question, the initial question.
Yes, I did. Good evening, everyone. So the SCEP plan, we have to address the area specifically focused on the subgroup. So absenteeism is addressed in our district-wide plan, the DSIP, but the SCEP plan is specific to Verne Critz, and that we weren't cited for absenteeism at Verne Critz.
All right, so it's not in this document that addresses absenteeism. It's the more global document that we'd reviewed earlier.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
I have one.
Ms. Ancona?
Thank you. So my concern with this school and with the 2 designated schools is that we're taking away the AIS teachers, and we have issues with the reading levels of these children. What are we doing? I know that the figures aren't probably all in yet, but do we have any AIS teachers, and especially in Critz, that are going to be designated working with the children that do need help? Because after last year, the kids are falling more behind in their reading levels. And I get that this is based on last year, but last year I don't even think was a good model, considering that we were out in March. So I have concerns of why this is even really being addressed by the state right now, but I know that's not a South Country issue. That's, a state issue. But my worry is that we are going to be designated because we don't have these AIS teachers helping.
So to further that confusion, Ms. O'Connor, the children that contributed to the designation are in Frank P. Long right now.
Okay.
So that'll just add some more confusion to your thoughts right now. So we're not, let me reiterate the remote teaching plan. First off, we're not using all of our AIS folks to do the plan. And the folks that we are using are to get us started, right? They're there to get us started because we have them, and due to COVID, they have not had full assignments at this time. The plan is to replace them with other teachers and to get them back into their regular jobs. And now that we are moving kids back into full-time instruction, we'll be able to have that time for them to be there. Right now, time's in a premium, right? Kids are in 2 days a week, basically. So there's not the time for the AIS to provide all that support. Now that they'll be in 4 days a week, we'll have more time to be able to target some of that support. But the plan is not to remove them. The plan is just to get started with them and then move into another direction. This new plan that I talked about earlier with the options, we're hopeful it's going to reduce the need of the AIS folks that we're using, and then we won't be able to even have to worry about targeting some of the low levels right away.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are we going to need to hire teachers to be full remote?
Yeah, so we are looking to hire folks to replace those teachers. We are working with the union right now in terms of what that'll look like. We're not specifically looking at members of the teaching rank, but maybe more in line with a permanent substitute to be able to provide the service. And as we roll it out is when we're going to know how many, to be honest with you. I couldn't give you an exact number. We were planning for 2 sections per grade level. I don't know if that's where we're going to land after these 2 new options are rolled out, though.
Wait, just to reiterate with that, are you saying that we're not going to create a posting now for remote teachers?
No. I said what we're going to do is use our AIS teachers to fill that slot, and then we are going to replace them with new teachers. But they're not going to be, for the lack of the better word, they're going to be permanent subs, and they won't be coming in on a teacher schedule, salary schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Because they'll really be temporary, right?
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on that item?
Do you need action from us?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I do need action.
I
Motion.
have one final question.
Okay.
Just, is there anything else the board can be doing to help the school succeed in, with the program?
With I'm sorry, with the COVID?
With the, hold on, whatever it's referred to.
Yep.
The school comprehensive education plan. Is there anything else that the board could be doing to assist in achieving the goals of the plan?
I don't think so. I mean, we're not looking for any action with additional staff at this point. I mean, clearly, as we move along, and if we need additional support in other ways, in terms of money, and we would bring it to the board for action or consideration. But at this point, I would say no, not at this point.
Should the board expect regular updates every couple of weeks, every couple of months?
Well, I would
on its
suggest,
progress?
I would say when you look at the plan, I think the next update may be sometime in January. We can certainly do that to provide any updates to the board. So you could expect that during those benchmark periods that you see in the report.
I guess when you give us that update on this school, can you also include updates on the other two schools that
Sure.
are?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so I do need a motion for approval of the Vern W. Kritz SCIP. So we can move it forward to the State Education Department.
Is there a motion? I see Mr. Trent made the motion. Is there a second? Ms. Felice, any questions or discussions at this point? All in favor? I think it's unanimous. Unanimously approved.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Ms. Doyle. And the next item, I will turn over to President Hayes, the final item for discussion, the proposed Asheville site topic.
Yeah, this was broached at the last meeting where there was a draft of a letter and some of the board members said they had comments to make. The comments came in. I took a stab at rewriting it to take out anything that sounded like opinion because that seemed to be one of the large objections to it. So what you have in front of you is a revised version. I did not intend that I would be the one involved in having to do all these drafts. So I would like to have input of the rest of the board. So open it up for discussion at this point. Mr. Trent.
I like the second version, so I would be in support of it.
And Madam Chair, I appreciate the effort that you put into to incorporate the comments into the first draft. I'm satisfied that that the board has taken an appropriate inquiry into the expansion. And I think this letter satisfies that need.
So version 2 would be all right with you?
Version 2, yes, I'd be in support of.
Anybody, any other comments? Mr. Pacini?
You're muted, Chris.
We can't hear you, Mr. Pacini.
You're muted.
No, he's not muted. Something's wrong. You want to go out and come back in, Mr. Pacini?
Johnny, is Jack here
Nah,
yet?
I never showed. I don't know what happened. I got a text that he was running late, but I didn't see him come into the meeting.
Well, Chris is going out and coming back in. I'm in support of this version as well.
Okay.
Me as well. I am as well.
Are you able to talk now, Mr. Pacini?
No,
No. This has never happened.
no. You wanna call? You wanna call in? I'll put you on speakerphone. Call my cell phone and I'll put you on speakerphone. Okay. Did you want to do that or do you want to call me? I don't have you here. You doing the other? Call into the Zoom number? Dan, he's going to show up in the waiting room. Okay, I got him.
Can you folks hear me now?
Yeah,
Hold on.
you gotta mute the other one.
I know, I'm trying to. How about now?
I can mute. Go ahead now. Try that.
Yeah, no, I muted already. Yeah, all right. Everybody can hear me now?
Yes,
Oh, sorry. I was only saying I agree with the second version. I wanted to thank Ann for the edits. That's all.
Oh.
Seemed like a whole lot of trouble for that simple statement.
okay, so I guess we need a motion to approve having, we'll have our clerk type it on letterhead, and I'll sign it for the board as president. And we'll send it off to the town representative where it should go. But I need a motion to have that done. That Mr. Trent's hand up? Yes? Okay. And a second by Ms. Aruda. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimously approved. Okay. Then,
Okay, we're moving on to curriculum items.
yes, please.
Okay, administration recommends approval of curriculum items reflected in schedules G1 and G2.
Is there a motion to approve G1 and G2? Mr. Trent, second by Ms. Aruda. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimously approved.
And administration recommends approval of personnel changes reflected in schedules I1, H1 through H9.
Is there a motion to approve the personnel changes H1 through H9? Ms. Ancona, second by Ms. Aruda. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? It's unanimously approved.
And before moving on to business items, I would like to announce some of the approvals the board just acted on. First, I'd like to welcome Madeline Theobald. The board just appointed her and approved her probationary appointment as an English teacher at Bellport High School. Her effective date for beginning will be tomorrow. So welcome, Ms. Theobald. And then also the board just approved my recommendation for tenure for 6 individuals. I'd like to read them to you. They are Madeline Vecchione, social worker at Bellport Middle School, Maria Perez, Susan Lannon, Allison Carruthers, Jill Ciavati, and Greta Kiss, all TAs throughout the district. So welcome to Madeline and congratulations to all others on that tenure recommendation approval. And moving on to business items, administration recommends approval of business items reflected in schedule I1 through I10.
Oh, I see. I need to refresh to find all those numbers. So hold on.
Okay.
Ah. I1 through I10.
Yes.
So I need a motion to approve business items I-1 through I-10. Motion by
Elise?
Mr. Trent and a second by, I think I saw Mr. Pacini's hand. Yes,
Ms. Felice's hand was up.
Ms. Felice, your second. Okay, thank you. Any questions or discussion? All in favor of approving I-1 through I-10, please raise your hand. That looks unanimous. Unanimously approved.
And that is all the items I have, Madam President, and I don't believe we have any other public commentaries.
Okay. So now we get to take closing remarks. I'm doing it in reverse alphabetical order except for me, so I'll start with Mr. Trent.
Yes, I wanted to thank everyone who generously donated to the Compass Unity Scholarship. And I also wanted to thank South Country Education Foundation for the grant to fund educational equipment at Frank P. Long. And I wanted to also apologize to the individuals that were gathered outside of central office at our last meeting, because I went into the board meeting and I told the board and the community why those individuals were there without actually talking to anyone that was there. I don't want to make excuses. I definitely should have had a conversation with somebody who was there. I was uneasy about just the whole situation. So I had decided to call a community member the night before Thanksgiving. But I called the community member because I felt like I needed a different perspective, because everyone that I talked to kind of agreed with my comments and my reaction, but then I realized that they were only hearing my perspective. So I guess that's why I called her. And that conversation was very brief, but important to me because she was right. These are our next generation of parents and students. And at our meeting, they were outside fighting for what they believed was right. And they absolutely deserve to be heard. And that night I didn't hear them. And I just wanted to apologize for that. But other than that, that's all I have.
Mr. Pacini.
You gotta go to your phone. Go to your phone to talk. You're muted on both.
You're muted on both, Chris.
Yeah, sorry. You know what? I clicked on something and it all went away. I don't have anything. All that for nothing. Sorry.
Mr. Parker.
Where is Mr. Parker?
I don't know.
He's not on the screen, so it looks like he's not here.
We lost him.
Oh, dear.
Oh, well. He's not in the waiting room.
All right. So, Ms. Felice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to mention that I did attempt to go to the Teaching and Learning Committee on November 30th. I couldn't get in because of the access. So I appreciate that meeting will be moving to the Zoom format, which is a little bit easier for me to navigate. So I apologize, I couldn't get into that meeting. Last night, I listened into a listening tour, Suffolk County Police Reform and Reinvention Task Force here in Suffolk County, appointed by the county executive at the request of the governor in his executive order to reimagine policing. And so the 5th precinct listening tour was last night on a Zoom meeting. There were about 140 on the call, and you could sign up to speak. I listened in based on the information we got from district, but by the time I read the email, it wasn't enough time to register to speak. Not that I would have, but when we get these notices, if we can get them, when district gets the notices, if they could get them out sooner, because there were some other precincts that were attached to ours that had already happened. So we could have listened in on those too, but nevertheless, the talk about racial profiling and systemic racism is still very much being talked about in our law enforcement system. And it was a good meeting. It was headed up by the chief of staff for the county executive, and also Commissioner Hart was in on the meeting. So it was good to listen into it. That's the only one they have for the fifth briefing so far. If any more come up, and we find out about them, I think it'd be good to listen in. They have to have a report into the state by April 1st, and that's what they're working on doing. But I just thought it was interesting, and I'm thankful the district sent that information out and I got to listen in. I'm also grateful that the president was able to sit in on the New York State School Board Association free webinar today. I had wanted to sit in on that and I forgot about it. So I'm glad Ann was able to take advantage of it. Tomorrow, just looking at environmental concerns in our district to make sure that nothing is going to negatively harm our school systems. There's going to be also a Zoom webinar on the Carmen River preservation group. So I'm going to listen into that one too, just to see, because there was some issues with underwater pollution and trickling down to the Carmen River. So I'm going to listen in on that. And then also let you know, we have our strategic planning committee meeting for December 8th. And then right after that, New York State School Board Association is offering a preview into the 2021 legislative agenda. So that is really good timing for our strategic planning committee to get our legislative action committee together in an attempt to start meeting with our local officials on what we're going to need as far as budget, especially with regard to budgetary issues. So that webinar is, you probably already got it in an email. If you didn't, let me know and I'll forward you mine. But that one's going to be December 10th at 12 noon, and it is free of charge. So the School Board Association is offering a number of webinars free to us as members to help us navigate these times. And if you can take advantage of them, please do. And everyone that I can take advantage of, I will, and I'll share it with you. And I think that concludes the balance of my report. Yes, thank you.
And President Hayes, before moving on, I just wanted to make a comment that Ms. Felice had mentioned about the police Zoom. I wasn't able to get on that call last night, but I did send a letter today. There were mail-in or email-in places that you could send information. And I'll send that out with the board's update tomorrow, so the board can see that.
Great.
Okay. I'm sorry. That's all I have.
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Aruda,
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Ancona,
I just wanted to say, I think this is our last December meeting, right? So I wanted to say Merry Christmas to everybody and have a Happy New Year and to be safe. And that was it. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay. And I have nothing to add to my earlier report about the meeting that I'd gone to. I looked forward to hearing Jack Frankie give us a report from the high school about their charitable efforts this month. But we'll get to hear about it, I think, at our January meeting. So,
Well, you know what? We'll try to reach out to him and get something that maybe I could stick in the update for the board to review tomorrow.
great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. I need a motion to adjourn, Mr. Trent, and a second by Ms. Ancona. All in favor? That's 6 in favor, 1 absent for the vote.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.